Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 22nd Annual Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame Induction Banquet. We thank all of you for being with us this evening. We think we have a most outstanding class of 2017 to present to you, and it's going to be a great evening. At this point, I would ask you to please rise for the posting of our nation's colors by the color guard from Fort Benning. Remain standing for the retiring of the colors as Kimotha Isel honors America with the singing of our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets re-glare, the bombs bursting in air, give proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you. Please be seated. It's a great pleasure to introduce to you the class of 2017. Each inductee will be escorted by a cheerleader from Columbus State University. Let's begin with our first inductee from Carver High School and the University of Tennessee, 2017 inductee, Sue Caldwell. From Troup County High School and Fort Valley State University, 2017 inductee Charles Flowers. From Industrial High School in West Palm Beach, Florida, and Florida A&M University, representing his father, 2017 inductee Leo Harrison Sr., his son, Leo Harrison, Jr. From Lafayette High School and the University of Georgia, 2017 inductee, Phil Scoggins. From Baker High School and Columbus State University, 2017 inductee, Mike Stevens. If you would be kind enough to refer to the program on the table before you, we'll begin with our invocation, followed by dinner. Following dinner, we'll recognize various notables in the audience, past year inductees, and then, of course, the highlight of the evening, the induction of the class of 2017. It's my pleasure at this point in time to introduce to you Dr. Jimmy Elder, pastor of First Baptist Church, Columbus, for our invocation. Dr. Elder.
13 times and still no cheerleader. I want to make some of that Ann said my cheerleader called in sick tonight. Yeah, I believe that. Would you join me in thanking Jim White for what he does to make this happen? I think it's amazing. That's the first blessing of the evening. You know, God gives us the ability to do some pretty remarkable things, to accomplish some pretty remarkable feats within our lives. How we take those gifts and how we use them, that's our response to God and our praise to Him. So as we pray together, let's dedicate this moment to the Lord's gifts, to these who have done so well with those gifts, and to the continuing influence of those lives within our world. I mean, it touches more people than you can imagine. Would you bow with me as we pray? Lord, we know that you created a world, but you never stopped creating wonderful things. You breathed breath into the first man and woman, and you never ceased to create wonderful people. These whom we honor tonight are some of your most beautiful and wonderful creations. You endowed them with abilities. You endowed them with opportunities. They seized upon them. They used them well. And the influence of their lives has touched individuals beyond their lives and their sphere on into what we will never be able to fully assess. So we offer this moment to you as a celebration of goodness, a celebration of character and integrity, a celebration of accomplishment, and a celebration of your goodness in our lives. We eat food that you provide. We celebrate people you have allowed to cross our paths. And then we re-enter a world where we can make a difference. May your Spirit work within us in these moments. as you receive from us our thanksgiving in your holy and precious name. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll pause now to enjoy dinner. We'll reconvene in about 20 to 25 minutes. So enjoy dinner, everyone. Good evening once again. If you haven't completed your meal, please continue to enjoy it. Again, we welcome you to this special occasion this evening, an occasion where we will recognize those who have contributed to sports from the Chattahoochee Valley. However, before we honor the class of 2017, we want to recognize a number of special guests this evening, as well as express our appreciation to a number of people. Let me first express our appreciation to the Ledger Enquirer newspapers, sports editor or writers Joe Walker and Dana Barker. I think Dana is here tonight, and hopefully we'll see a good report on our behavior in tomorrow's newspaper. Want to express our grateful appreciation to WRBL TV3, Brendan Robertson, sports director, and Natalie Pellicetti, sports anchor. Grateful appreciation to WTVM, Dave Plata, and a very, very special thanks to Phil Scoggins and Robbie Ross, who work their magic with the video materials that our inductees provide us every year. We're very, very grateful for their contributions and their expertise. Let me address first a couple of officials that I want to introduce tonight. We're grateful to have with us from the City of Smith Station, Mayor F.L. Bubba Copeland. Mayor Copeland, raise your hand. There he is. From the City of Phoenix City, we're proud to have Mayor Eddie Lowe and his wife Deborah. Where are you, Eddie? Right here. Welcome. Some 22 years ago, a group of local sports enthusiasts gathered to consider how they might start a process of recognizing those who contributed to sports from the Chattahoochee Valley. After a series of meetings, the organization we know today as the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame came into existence. We consist of 15 selection committee members who peruse for 3 solid months the nominee list that is presented to us of various candidates from in and around the Chattahoochee Valley. There are a number of those committee members here tonight, and if you, ladies and gentlemen, would just simply please stand and be recognized, and my expression to you would be a huge thank you for a job well done. Committee members, would you please stand? We're pleased as well to have a number of past year inductees with us tonight. If you will please stand as your name is called and kindly remain standing until all have been introduced. First of all, from the class of 1999, Billy Key. From the class of 2003, Bill Plager. I'm not sure if Wayne Trawick is here or not, but from the class of 2003, Wayne Trawick. Wayne, are you here? Don't think so. From the class of 2004, Wallace Davis. From the class of 2004, DJ Jones. From the class of 2005, Debbie Ball. From the class of 2005, Bobby Howard. From the class of 2008, James Patrick. From the class of 2010, Greg Camp. From the class of 2012, Thermos Butler. From the class of 2013, Charles Ragsdale. From the class of 2013, Eugene White. From the class of 2014, I think B.R. Johnson is here. B.R., where are you? Maybe not. From the class of 2015, Eddie Lowe. From the class of 2016, Pam Carter. From the class of 2016, Cecil Cheeves. From the class of 2016, Tim Walton. Have I missed anyone? Great. Thank you all so much. Job well done. Oh, Bubba Ball. My gracious. How could I miss Bubba Ball? Bubba, I'm sorry. I know I'll have to pay for that. I don't know how, but somehow it'll happen. Now it's time to honor the class of 2017. Our first inductee was the Georgia Gatorade Athlete of the Year while at Carver High School in 1990, was the AAU U.S. Track Federation champion at the DC Express, was SEC Comeback Athlete of the Year 1993, 1992 Olympic Trials in New Orleans, 1996 Olympic Trials in Atlanta, and she was the sprinter jump coach at Ole Miss 1996, 7, and 8. If you'll please direct your attention to the screen.
When Kenya Sue Walton Caldwell was in high school, you knew she was on track to become a phenomenal athlete. Sue attended Carver High School, where she was a multi-sport star. She was an outstanding basketball player and co-captain of her team, but it was on the track that she carved a path to greatness. In 1989, she was the state champion in the 100 meters. The following year, Caldwell swept the gold at the state 4A track meet, capturing the state championship in the 100 meters, 200 meters, 4x100, and long jump. It's no wonder she was honored as the Gatorade Track Athlete of the Year. But Sue's dominance on the track extended well beyond the Peach State. That same year, she was the national AAU champion in both the 100 and 200 meter dash. Her collegiate career was no less astonishing. She was a 12-time All-American at the University of Tennessee. The Vols record books still reflect how impressive her career was. She's third all-time in the indoor 200 meters and fourth fastest in the outdoor 200 meters. During her UT career, she had to undergo knee surgery, but recovered to become the SEC Female Comeback Athlete of the Year. Sue's performance in the classroom was equally impressive. She was named to the All-SEC academic team, and in 2011, she was inducted into the University of Tennessee Athletic Hall of Fame. Caldwell's impeccable credentials qualified her to compete against the best track and field athletes in the country, participating in the 1992 Olympic trials in New Orleans in the 100, the 200, and the long jump. 4 years later, she was back on that same stage participating in the Olympic trials for Atlanta in the 100 and 200 meters. In 1995, Caldwell captured a gold medal at the World University Games, anchoring the 4x100 relay. For her efforts in the sport, Sue was inducted into the DC Express Track Club Hall of Fame in Decatur, Georgia. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame is proud to induct Kenya Sue Walton Caldwell.
Ladies and gentlemen, class of 2017 inductee, Sue Caldwell. Take a look at the camera.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. I want to start by thanking God. I want to also acknowledge my husband Mike, and my 3 kids, 2 of whom are here tonight. Sydney, my oldest, couldn't make it. Sanaya's here, and my son Simeon. I also would like to congratulate the other inductees that are on the stage with me tonight. I would like to thank Jim White, the committee, and everyone who played a part in me being selected. I am truly honored and humbled by this. I grew up liking sports, basketball and track in particular. My liking for these sports eventually turned into me loving them. And by loving it, I wanted to do good in them, and I wanted to win. By having success in track and basketball, it gave me scholarship opportunities. My senior year, I committed to the Ohio State University on a track scholarship, following behind my brother Tim, who committed there for football the year before. But because of the cold weather, I felt the need to head back south a little more and was able to transfer to the University of Tennessee, where I finished my track career and graduated with a business degree. Although I ran track professionally right after college, my career was cut short by injuries, and I went on to coach track at the University of Mississippi. Over my career, whether it was elementary track, middle school basketball and track, high school basketball and track, college track or professional track, I have achieved many accomplishments, but I have also endured many failures as well. It is easy to celebrate accomplishments, but the hardest part was to fail and come back and try to succeed after failing. I was and still am a very competitive person. I do not like to lose, but guess what? I have lost. Those are the times when you get down on yourself. And I want to use my time up here tonight to thank the people in different phases of my life that have helped me along the way. It is true that it takes a village to raise a child, and some of my village is here tonight. And it's important for me to recognize them because although I'm standing here receiving this honor, I didn't get here alone. My parents are the reason why I'm standing up here tonight. I mean, literally, they are the reason why I'm standing up here tonight. But seriously, if it wasn't for them pushing me, motivating me, encouraging me, getting on me when I didn't do things to the best of my ability, showing me, teaching me, I wouldn't be in the position I am to receive this special honor. They made a lot of sacrifices for me financially and time-wise, so I am forever indebted to them. My mom, let me just say, anyone who knows me knows that my mom is my world. I'm a LeBron fan, but Kevin Durant said it best. Mom, you're the real MVP. She has taken this journey with me and has been by my side through it all. My brother Tim, I would say, has always been my #1 fan. He's always encouraged me, pushed me, and got on me when he knew I could do better. So thanks, bro. My dad was my middle school coach, and he was always hard on me. I still remember asking Miss Loper, can she open the door to my dad's office so I can use the phone? She asked me who did I need to call because my dad was here. I said my mom because I'm quitting and I'm gonna need a ride home. My mom talked to my dad and eventually talked me out of quitting, saying your dad said he's hard on you because he sees something special in you. He said, I don't understand now, but I would thank him later. Hey, Dad, thanks. I understand now. But my family, they saw me frustrated at times. They saw me happy. They saw me win. They saw me lose. They saw the hard work. They saw the aches, the pains, and the injuries that I suffered throughout. And all I can say is I'm up here tonight because I could not have asked for a better dad, mother, or brother to be in my corner. So thank you. Other people I would like to quickly acknowledge is my brother's family, Tracy, Trey, Tyler, Mia, my Aunt Mac, my best friends that came down from Atlanta, Daryl Jones, Miss Davis, and Coach Davis, and all of you that are here with me tonight to help me celebrate this honor. I thank you. My high school years, which I can definitely say were some of my best years. Coach Davis, Miss Lindsay, Coach Martin, all my coaches during those years I have to acknowledge. But I think everyone here has a Coach Davis story or has heard about a Coach Davis story. So I can't leave here tonight without giving you a Coach Davis story. So Coach Davis always used to say, Sue, you can be great. Do you want to be great? I said, yes, Coach. I want to be great. Well, hell, go run a hill. I was like, right now, Coach? It's right after school, and I still have on my jeans and school clothes, and I don't have any tennis shoes with me. Oh, Sue, you got all these excuses. Somebody give Sue some shoes. Come here, Sue. Let me talk to you. You think the conditions are always going to be perfect? Because they're not. Go ask your dad. He'll tell you. We walked 10 miles somewhere Stover was coming next. So my friend Tobe used to always come try to find me after school. And after Coach Davis told me that, I can hear my brother or Brentson or Bobby telling me, y'all just go run the hill so Coach Davis don't get mad at all of us and make all of us run. So just go run the hill. So Coach Davis, I thank you for pushing me and making me do those extra hills. Those extra hills are part of the reason why I'm standing on this stage tonight. So thank you. I say all that to say, to this day, I tell everyone about me going to Carver High School in Columbus, Georgia. I tell them all of us that came out under Coach Davis was well prepared for athletics in college. I really enjoyed my high school years, and I have my teachers, my staff members, and especially my coaches to thank for that. So thanks, Coach Davis. As I mentioned before, I went to Ohio State my freshman year, but I was able to transfer to the University of Tennessee, where I also had some of my best years. You already saw the slides and some of my accomplishments and awards, but I want to talk about how my transfer to Tennessee changed my life. I met my best friend, Mike. While in college, his dad, Pete, and his mom, who is no longer with us, was very supportive of me. But my husband now, who was my boyfriend back in college, he was there alongside my family when I had knee surgery, and the doctor told me my sophomore year that I would never be able to run competitively again because my knee was so messed up. Mike told me, you'll be able to run again. I know you will. For months, I was on crutches, and I finally got off and was able to start walking and jogging with the trainers with workouts on the track. My workout after those few months were walk 100 meters and then jog 50 meters. That was my workout. I was like, oh, no, that's not going to work. And he said, just do the workout. He was at Middle Tennessee State University, which was 2.5 hours away from mine. He was like, just do the workout. I would come down on weekends and go to the training room with you. He used to come down and tell me to go harder. I always used to say, no, I can't, it hurts. He said, stop being that punk and get tough if you want to get back on the track. My return to the track the next year garnered me SEC Female Comeback Athlete of the Year. I owe it to my trainers, my coaches, and my boyfriend, Mike. They earned that award just by putting up with me for that year. So shout out to my boyfriend then and husband now. And also I must mention that he is a Hall of Famer too. He told me, although I'm getting honored tonight, he is still the best athlete in the family. I tried to debate that with him during his high school and college years, but after him playing 11 years in the NFL and currently in his 9th year coaching in the NFL, I don't think I won that debate anymore. But seriously, I can't explain how important a support system was to my success. All the people I mentioned and others that I may have forgotten to mention know if you gave me an encouraging word or supported me in any way that it meant so much to me. And I have taken credit all these years for the awards that I have won, which I did because of hard work, but I didn't win them alone. Tonight is all about my family, my friends, and my coaches that have been with me through it all. The ups, the downs, the great times, the good times, and the bad times. You are my family, and you are my Hall of Famers. Tonight is for us. Thank you.
Congratulations, Sue Caldwell and the Caldwell family. Our next inductee won a state championship in football and baseball as head coach in the same school year, 2000-2001. He was presented the key to the city of Columbus by Mayor Bob Portashef in 2005. He is the founder and CEO of the Champions of Character Educational Leadership Program. He was elected to the Georgia High School Baseball Hall of Fame in 2007, and he's had over 300 former athletes to have signed athletic scholarships through the years under his guidance. He was elected to the Fort Valley State University Athletic Hall of Fame in 2012. Please direct your attention to the screen.
Charles Flowers has been helping young student athletes blossom on the playing field and in the classroom for 35 years. He was quite the athlete himself, making the All-Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference baseball team twice while playing for his alma mater, Fort Valley State. He was selected team captain and named Most Valuable Player his senior year. After receiving his degree in health and physical education, Flowers first coached and taught at West Point High School. Then it was on to Shaw High School in 1987, where he coached both baseball and football. His Raider football teams blitzed their way to 5 consecutive Region II Quad A championships from 1999 to 2003. Coach Flowers and company captured the state championship in 2000, going a perfect 15-0. The Raiders made it all the way to the state semifinals in 2003, 2005, and 2006. 151 of Coach Flowers' players went on to sign college football scholarships. 5 of them went on to play in the NFL. Flowers' baseball teams likewise enjoyed some stellar seasons. In fact, the Raiders captured the state Quad A championship in 2001 in the spring of the same school year that Shaw won the state football title. The year before and after 2001, the Raiders baseball team finished as state runners-up, which they also accomplished in 2005. Flowers' coaching record in baseball, 429 wins and 180 losses. Flowers left Shaw in 2006 to become the system-wide athletic director for Muskogee County. He currently serves as associate athletic director at Point University in West Point. He still likes to keep his hand on the whistle, though. Since 2012, he's served as the 9th grade football coach at Smith Station High School in Alabama. Flowers' family has been supportive of his coaching endeavors and continues to play an important role in his career, which has been honored on multiple levels. In 2007, he was inducted into the Georgia High School Baseball Coaches Hall of Fame, and in 2015, his alma mater inducted him into the Fort Valley State University Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame is proud to induct Charles Flowers.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2017 inductee Charles Flowers. Take a look at the camera.
Good evening. Sue, when you said that you had to put up with Felix Walton and Wallace Davis, those two alone, those are things that you should be inducted into the Hall of Fame for having to do that. Those two gentlemen are very good friends of mine, and they're quality young men. When I first got to Columbus many years ago, I got a chance to meet Coach Walton, and a lot of his players at the middle school level came on to play for me at Shaw High School. Meeting Wallace Davis was not quite the same story because we got beat up on pretty bad those early years. And when I say the early years, I mean the early years. During those early years, we would always play Central High School the very first game of the season. And at that time, we were told we had to play them in Phoenix City because of the scheduling arrangements. And me being a young, energetic head coach, decided that we were going to make a rule that any player that missed practice couldn't play in the game. Lo and behold, those guys didn't want to play Central. We literally had to have coaches at the bus ramp, keeping the guys from getting on the bus to go home. And in those early years, it was not a matter of whether we were going to win or lose. It was a matter of whether we were going to score. And I can honestly and truly tell you that myself as a head coach saw a lot of homecoming queens. Every school in the world wanted to schedule Shaw High School for homecoming. You had homecoming queens in November, freezing. And when we're getting beat that bad at halftime, what do you say to your team? It's not a whole lot that you can say. But those were the early years. And those years caused a lot of growth. But during those years, we had a great family atmosphere. I can remember being a young, energetic, and somewhat arrogant coach and meeting Debbie Ball and Bubba Ball during that time. It truly humbled me. But they took the time to help me. They took the time to help me grow and to help me understand how politics as well as athletics worked in Muskogee County. Did somebody say it works the same way now? I would like to thank the selection committee and all the people who are responsible for providing me the opportunity to be here. I would like to recognize my family, my wife Cheryl, my brother-in-law Greg, my grandson Justin, son Johnny, daughter-in-law Ebony, son Maudrice, daughter Janisha and Jolie, and baby-to-be-born Joy. My daughter Chanel would have normally been here, but she had to have some surgery, and my son-in-law Justin Houston would have been here, but he had to be at some activities with the Super Bowl. Family is truly important to me. That's a little bit more important, don't you think? I'm grateful. I'm grateful to have a family atmosphere, and she's going after it. Because, as Sue mentioned, having good support is unbelievable. When you lose a game or you win a game, you want someone to celebrate, and during those times when you don't do as well as you should, you need that supporting cast. And I can honestly and truly say that my family has always been there for me, to support me through those times. At Shaw High School, we had a tremendous family background. We had a truly good atmosphere. The coaches were good people. We understood that we had to teach the total child. We taught that second curriculum. We were mentors, we were role models, we were fathers, we were travel agents. Everybody's car became a vehicle to take somebody home. And don't forget, we had the coach also. We were fortunate to have good parents, good administrators, those people who supported us. We had administrators who understood that winning was important, but they understood that being academically prepared was more important. And that was the foundation that we tried to build our program on. I can honestly, truly say that the administration, the coaches that we had, and the teachers that we had, they did things right. But more importantly, they did it the right way. And it's a difference. Just to name some of those coaches, and I know that I'm going to forget some: Craig Fitz, Scott Newman, Richard Green, Mike Rainier, Ricky Stone, Edgar Johnson, Bruce Wade, Mike Stevens, Chris Lindsay, Alton Pitts, Paul Case, James Wilson, Vince Allen. Those people stood by us, and they believed in doing the right thing. When you take on the role as a coach, you always have to be prepared for the worst. One thing that I always tried to teach my athletes was that the best way to do anything is yet to be found. The best way to do anything is not to be found. I do a lot of speaking to different coaches and young coaches a lot of times, and it amazes me how they want to get to the performance before they get to the recital. They want to be a coordinator. Say, Coach, what do I need to do to be a defensive coordinator? What do I need to do to be an offensive coordinator? And I said, I'm so glad that you asked. Let's learn to coordinate that lawnmower to cut the grass. Let's coordinate laundry room to wash the uniforms. Let's coordinate study hall. Let's do that. Let's coordinate that irate parent that wants you to play the best in their son. In baseball, they always wanted you, Coach, I want you to play the best plus my son. And in football, they wanted you to play the best 10 and their son. I'm not one of those coaches that going to wake up one morning and say the ladder that I've been climbing my whole life is leaning against the wrong wall. That's not me. I'm not that guy. I can honestly, truly say that I enjoy what I do with a passion. And I believe that once we decide that we're called to do something, it makes a difference. Reverend Hewlin is in the audience out there, and he told me at a meeting one time, he said, a job is what you are paid for, but your calling is what you're made for. And that kind of stuck with me. And I try to utilize that now. You see, coaching is just like preaching to a degree. A lot of time, preachers supposed to be called by God or called by somebody. A lot of times, they weren't called by anybody. They just showed up. And coaches are the same way. Giving you a stopwatch or whistle and a clipboard don't make you a coach. Coach told me one time, he said, Coach, you know, I'm just burned out. I said, how long have you been coaching? He said, 5 years. I said, well, young blood, you hadn't caught on fire yet. As I get ready to leave and take my seat, Pastor Vince Allen, who's a very good friend of mine and also my pastor, he said, champion can't stay down and a loser can't get up. And Pastor Reggie Williams in August 24, 2014, I'm a note taker. And he says there's victory in stones. And he said basically what he was saying, we have to always remember where we came from. I know where I came from. I'm truly grateful for all the parents, all the community support, and all the lives that I've had a chance to touch here in Columbus, Georgia. But I could not have accomplished that without my family and without the great support of everyone standing here. I spent 23 years in the system, and I'd like to think that I was able to influence the lives of a lot of young people. I had the best foundation possible, and that's a loving wife and a loving family. As you stated, I have been fortunate enough to be inducted into, this is my 3rd Hall of Fame. I have one more to go. As I leave this earth, I don't want people to remember me as a coach who did some great things and won championships. I want to be remembered as someone who helped somebody, and I want to be inducted into God's Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Congratulations, Charles Flowers and the Flowers family. Our next inductee was very proud to have attended college, earning a Bachelor of Science degree. He was most proud to have been a long-term educator. He was inducted into the Florida A&M University Sports Hall of Fame. He received numerous proclamations from the states of Florida, Georgia, and Alabama, and was one of the founders of the local chapter of Omega Psi Phi fraternity. Will you please direct your attention to the screen?
Born in St. Petersburg, Florida in 1918, Leo Harrison Sr. was destined to be an acclaimed sports figure early on. He made All-State in football and basketball in high school. That earned him a 4-year scholarship to Florida A&M University, where he established himself as one of the school's all-time greats. Harrison played fullback on the Rattlers' 1938 National Championship team, winning all conference honors. He not only pounded opponents on the field, Harrison was equally impressive in the boxing ring, winning the Southern Intercollegiate Boxing Championship. He was inducted into the Florida A&M Sports Hall of Fame in 1992. Harrison's accomplishments in college were not limited, though, to the athletic field. He served as president of the Student Council and also helped establish the Omega Psi Phi fraternity chapter at FAMU. After graduating in 1942, Harrison received an offer to play pro football from the Detroit Lions. Instead, he opted to join the Army, which brought him to Fort Benning. During his time on post, he organized the Reception Center Tigers football team that played small black colleges and Air Force teams. With Harrison leading the way in the backfield, the Tigers only lost 3 games over a 3-year period. After serving his country for 4 years, Harrison remained in the area to serve the Bi-City community. He was hired as a math and science teacher at South Girard High School in Phoenix City. His athletic background also qualified him to coach several sports teams at South Girard through the years. Harrison retired from the classroom in 1980 after a 27-year career in public education. Harrison's contributions to both Columbus and Phoenix City were recognized in proclamations that he received from both city councils. In 2003, Phoenix City wanted to pay special tribute to the legacy of Leo Harrison, so they decided to rename their football complex off Somerville Road, changing its name to Garrett Harrison Stadium. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame is proud to posthumously induct Leo Harrison Sr.
Ladies and gentlemen, accepting for his father, Leo Harrison Sr., his son, Leo Harrison Jr. Take a look at the camera. Thank you very much. You betcha.
Good evening. I tell you, this is truly amazing. If my father was here, he would really, really be extremely humble for this award. My mother couldn't be here tonight, although she wanted to, but she couldn't. Tell you, that video says a lot. My father, born in West Palm Beach, Florida, he didn't have much when he grew up. Wasn't poor, but wasn't far from it. He had 6 other brothers and sisters. His mother went blind when he was in high school. His father died when he was a young age in grade school. So he pretty much had to come up pretty fast, even though he had other brothers and sisters, but he pretty much had to take the helm of the family. He always had a desire to go to school. He was all-state running back in high school, but he knew that without that football scholarship, he wouldn't be able to go to college. He just couldn't afford it. But he played hard, practiced hard, and hard work paid off. He got a 4-year scholarship to Florida A&M University. And he was the second one out of his family to go to college. And that really meant a lot to him. One thing about it, if he put his mind to something, he can do it. He didn't let his neighborhood or his environment spoil his dream. He wanted to go to college, and that's what he did. My father loved sports. He loved football, basketball. He loved all sports. He was a head football coach at South Girard, plus he was a head basketball coach. And he loved people. My father loved South Girard High School. I believe we got some South Girard alumni here. Stand up, South Girard alumni. All right. I want to thank Mr. White and the Hall of Fame committee for this outstanding award for my father. I also want to thank Mr. Wallace Davis, Mr. Robert Anderson, and Mr. James Patrick for their tireless efforts in making this all come to pass. I also want to acknowledge dear friends of the family, Judge Michael Bellamy and the Reverend Dr. Ralph Hewlin. Very dear friends to the family. My father, he would always be the type of man that if you tell him he couldn't do something, within reason that is, he gonna prove you wrong. We used to go down, my mother's from St. Augustine, Florida, and we used to go down there a lot. And my grandfather, my mother's father, had a couple of horses. Back then, down in St. Augustine, they had this sightseeing tour with the horse and buggy. I don't think they had that no more, but my grandfather drove the carriage, and he had a couple of horses. So my father, during that time, he wanted to get on a horse. So I feel like I want to ride a horse. So he asked my grandfather, he said, which one of these horses? He said, oh, you can get in one of these horses you want, except one. That horse over there, don't try to ride him. So you can hook him up to a carriage all day long. He'll pull it all day long, but you try to get on his back, so that's not going to work. My father said he hadn't met me yet. My granddaddy, he said, I'm telling you, Leo, don't get on that horse. Granddaddy went in the house for something. My dad said, I don't know what he talking about. He grabbed that horse by his mane and jumped up on that horse's back. That horse took off. Horse jumped the fence, ran down the road about a mile or two. I ran in the house hollering, Granddaddy, Mama, Grandmama, anybody. I said, Dad, I got on that horse. And so when they did find him about a mile or two down the road, he had looked like a death grip around that horse's neck. You look at that horse's eyes like that horse want to say, get him off me, he's about to kill me. We had to just pull his arms off and around that horse's neck. I tell you, that was something I said to myself, I never would have tried that. But I tell you, my family, we're truly humbled by this award tonight. Truly honored to have my father honored tonight. I mean, this is amazing. Just wish my father could be here to see this. This is outstanding. Again, I want to thank everybody responsible for this. My father, he loved people. He loved helping people. Not only just when he coached that football, he would tell his son, you better stay in school, go to class. He loved football. He loved coaching football. But he loved people just as well. And he would always, if he could do anything for you, he'd be glad to do it. Back in those days, South Gerard, my father coached for free. They wasn't paying coaches back then. You coach for nothing. And back then, teachers wasn't making a whole lot of money. And at South Gerard, a lot of equipment and stuff they didn't have, my father would buy it on his own. Because he loved the guys so much. So he would go in his pocket and had a little credit line down the back. Back then, they had a Bentley sporting goods store. Some of you remember Bentley's down on Broadway. He had a little credit down there with Mr. Tom Rivers. He'd go down there and get a lot of South Gerard equipment and stuff because the school just couldn't afford to give it to him. Well, my daddy loved the people that much. He loved South Gerard that much. He loved football and he loved people that much. And he would sacrifice anything to try and help them. He sent quite a few boys to college down at Florida A&M. He sent some people down at Alabama A&M. And I think Claude English went to, can't think right now. Rhode Island, that's right, Rhode Island. Claude English went to Rhode Island. So father sent quite a few guys to college, and even on a football scholarship. And if they didn't make it in football, he would always say, that's all right, but they got in school. They stayed in school. If they didn't make it in football, it's okay. Because education is number one. He would always say that education is number one. Some guys made it onto the pros and some guys didn't. But it was all good. At least they got a chance to go to college. And he was glad to help them. Out of all his achievements, being an educator, I think, was the most important thing for him because he loved people so much. So my father was a big, strong, tough man with a soft heart. Do anything for you. Didn't mind helping you. Didn't care who you were. If he could help you, he would help you. And this is, I mean, I'm just overwhelmed. This is just amazing. Thank you, Mr. White, and all the members of the committee for thinking enough of my father to give him this honor. It's extremely humbling, and my family and I, we truly, truly appreciate it. And with that, thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You betcha. Congratulations, Leo Harrison Jr. and the Harrison family. Our next inductee played on the only undefeated regular season football team in the history of Lafayette High School in 1969. He was a three-year letterman as a diver on the University of Georgia swim team. He served as sports director for WRFC Radio in Athens from 1974 to 76, and you Georgia Bulldog fans will realize that that's the flagship station, or was the flagship station for Georgia football and basketball at that time. He was recognized by the Associated Press for excellence in TV sports reporting in 1980 and 1981. He founded Scoggins Video Production, which operated for 25 years, producing promotional videos for local businesses and nonprofit corporations, including Callaway Gardens, the Buick Southern Open Golf Tournament, and the National Infantry Museum. Would you please direct your attention to the screen?
Phil Scoggins' love of sports began while living next door to his grandmother Clinton in his hometown of Lafayette, Georgia. She lovingly paid 10 cents a day for Phil and his brother to take swim lessons at the nearby city swimming pool. That led to Phil joining the Bluefin swim team as a 13-year-old. He won the state 1-meter diving championship for his division at the State Parks and Recreation swim meet in Athens in 1966. Phil switched to football in high school. His senior year, he played running back on the offense, cornerback on the defense, and kicked extra points on the team that went 11-1, winning the regional title and advancing to the state playoffs. Phil studied broadcast news at the University of Georgia, receiving a BA degree in journalism in 1974. He fulfilled yet another dream, lettering 3 years as a diver on the University of Georgia swim team, a team that included Jack Bowerly, the current men's and women's swim coach for the Bulldogs. Phil's first job out of college was sports director for WRFC Radio in Athens, the flagship station for the University of Georgia football and basketball games at the time. He worked in the booth providing scores to the legendary play-by-play announcer Larry Munson. Phil handled the pregame, halftime, postgame, and the coaches show for the Georgia Basketball Network during the home games in 1975 and 1976. In November of 1976, Phil was hired as sports anchor for WRBL TV in Columbus, eventually replacing George Theringer as sports director. Phil spent 6 years as sportscaster, also working for WYEA TV. In 1988, Phil launched a corporate video production company which he operated for 25 years. From 1989 to 2002, he produced promotional videos for the Southern Open Golf Tournament at Green Island Country Club, and then for the Buick Southern Open and Buick Challenge played at Callaway Gardens. Phil had previously served on the board of the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame and produces the videos for the Induction Banquet each year. In 1988, Phil returned to WRBL as a news anchor, a position he still holds today. The crowning achievement of Phil's life, having the good fortune of marrying Judy Waller Scoggins in 1972, a sweetheart he met at church camp when he was 14 years of age. Phil and Judy are the proud parents of 3 grown children who all live in Columbus and 8 grandchildren. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame is proud to induct Phil Scoggins.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2017 inductee Phil Scoggins.
All right, you saw it, proof positive that I did have hair back then. And a lot of y'all remember me looking like that. How do you like that tie, too? Wasn't that pretty big? A big thank you to my dear friend Jimmy Elder for narrating my video tonight. You've got a promising career in broadcasting, buddy, when you decide to give up the pulpit. There's a song by the late Andre Crouch that says, "How can I say thanks for the things you've done for me?" God has been good to me, dear friends. Tonight is an unexpected blessing from above, and I thank you, Lord. I also want to thank Jim and Ann White for all that you have done to make this night so special for me and the rest of the inductees here on the dais. Your dedication to this wonderful organization cannot be measured in words. Special thanks to the members of the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame Committee. Your decision back in September to induct me into this incredible Hall of Fame is more thrilling to me than I can express tonight, although I'm going to attempt to do so. To my fellow inductees, a heartfelt congratulations on all your many accomplishments and achievements in your career. It's been good to get to know you better tonight. Coach Flowers, being inducted on the same night as you has made this night uniquely special for me and my family. You had a profound impact on my son Scott when he played for you at Shaw High School. You not only taught him how to play the game of baseball, you taught him to have values that have served him well in the game of life. And you've left an indelible mark on him and on us. And we thank you, Coach. I would be remiss tonight if I didn't acknowledge the passing of our dear friend and Hall of Fame colleague, Cecil Darby. His funeral was yesterday. What a prince of a man and king of local sports writing. He wrote many of the biographies that I relied on to produce the induction videos. He's going to be dearly missed. Well, Jim, you said we have 10 minutes to make our remarks tonight. And of course, you know, when I get behind a microphone, I normally get 30 minutes. So good luck. I stand before you tonight on the shoulders of so many people who have poured themselves into my life, beginning with my parents, Max and Joan Scoggins. They led me to a faith in Jesus Christ as a young boy and taught me to trust in the Lord with all my heart and lean not on my own understanding, and that if I would acknowledge him in all my ways, he would direct my path. And he has done that. Thank you, Dad, and thank you, Mom, for making sure that my life was built on a strong, unshakable foundation. And also, thank you for passing along to me the love of sports. My dad, who is here tonight, all the way from my hometown in Lafayette, Georgia, played baseball, football, threw the discus on the track team at Lafayette High School. His high school sweetheart, my mom, Joan, was a sharpshooting basketball player. Now, she played basketball back in the days when they only played half court. Some of you remember those days. Mom would have loved this moment tonight. I actually received word about my induction into the Hall of Fame 3 days after my mom's funeral back in September. And as Jimmy Elder told me, "Mom, you have the best seat in the house tonight." Now, Mom's mother was Rebecca Clinton. She was a special lady, as you learned in the video. She meant that her grandsons were going to learn how to swim at a young age. So she took us to the nearby city pool for swim lessons. And who would have ever thought that her determination and her love for us would lay the groundwork for an eventual college scholarship to the University of Georgia swim team. I'll divert from my notes to tell you one diving story, and I have many, but here's one of them. When you enter in a diving competition, you have to submit 11 dives. And my junior year, the SEC swim meet was held in Knoxville, Tennessee, very familiar territory for you, Sue. And so I submitted my dives. I'm the number 3 diver now on the Georgia swim team. So there were 22 divers in the field. And I figured that what are the chances that I'm going to make the top 12? So I listed as my 11th dive a dive that I'd never done before. And somehow or another, our number 2 diver had a bad meet, and I snuck in at number 12, which meant I had to do an inward 2.5 from the 3-meter, having never done one in my life before. So I did work up the nerve in practice to do a couple before I actually had to do it in competition. Did it in competition, didn't splat and embarrass myself. I actually came up smiling after I finished the dive. The scores came up. Guess who gave me the lowest score? Pete Sholey, University of Georgia swim coach. Come on, coach. He didn't know that that was the only time I'd ever done that dive in competition. Those were some incredible days. Now, here's another example of how sports genes run in my family. Grandmother Clinton, whom I mentioned, her uncle was Walton Cruz. Cecil Darby would love this story, Jim. Just pay attention here. He was a Major League Baseball player, Walton Cruz, back in the early 1900s. He played outfield for the Boston Braves. His claim to fame, he played in the longest game in Major League Baseball history. May 1st, 1920, the Boston Braves were playing the Brooklyn Robins, later to be called Dodgers, of course. The game went 26 innings. Go look it up on Google, folks. Had to be called due to darkness. It ended in a 1-1 tie. Walton Cruz tripled in the 6th inning, later scored the only run for Boston in the ball game. And by the way, the starting pitchers for both teams pitched the entire game. He was my great-great-uncle. It was sports that brought me to the city of Columbus back 40 years ago, and I have Dick McMichael to thank for that. He gave me the opportunity to break into television as a young sportscaster. And I almost didn't come to Columbus. After I left a radio job in Athens, I was working as a news photographer at WALB TV in Albany, Georgia. I'd only been there 2 months when Dick called and offered me a job. But my news director in Albany had been so good to me, I just didn't feel like that I could betray him. So I turned Dick down. And when I told my dad, he said, "You might want to rethink that." And I did. And I called Dick back and accepted the offer. And 40 years later, I'm still in Columbus, Georgia. Now, during my 6 years of sportscasting, when I first started out back in 1976, the highlight had to have been, for me, the University of Georgia's trip to the Sugar Bowl, January 1st of 1981, to play Notre Dame for the national championship. You like my tie? I was the sports director for WIEA at the time. That's now WLTZ. I pitched the idea of doing a 1-hour special to preview the big game. We drove to South Bend to interview Coach Dan Devine and his players. Then we headed up to Athens to interview Vince Dooley, Herschel Walker, and all the Bulldogs. One of the Georgia players I featured was a walk-on from Hardaway High School. His name was Tommy Nix. He was the snapper for extra points, field goals, and punts. And one day while I was editing the special, his mom calls and says, "When's the program going to air?" I told her when it was going to be televised, and then she said, "Well, I guess we'll see you in New Orleans." And I told her, "No, ma'am, I've really worked long and hard on this 1-hour special, and I didn't even apply for credentials for the game." Half hour later, she called me back and said, "Phil, I have you 2 tickets to New Orleans. But the caveat is you have to use them for free." So I go home. I told my wife, Judy, and her response was, "Why don't you and your dad go?" So off we go to New Orleans to watch the Georgia Bulldogs win the national championship on Dad's 50th birthday. What an incredible birthday present. Some more incredible memory, huh, Dad? As I survey this room tonight, I see so many familiar faces. Many I've followed during my sports days. I am so thankful that through the vehicle of sports, we have had a chance to meet and become friends. You have enriched my life, and I'm so glad to see you here tonight. There's someone who's in the back corner of this banquet hall, by the way, that he's here at every one of these events. You probably don't ever notice him. His name is Robbie Ross. Robbie and I have been producing videos for 25 years plus. He's the one who edits all of these induction videos every year. He's the thankless person whose face you never see. But Robbie Ross, would you please stand and let me thank you for helping me do what I do here? Thank you, Robbie. Good job every year. You worked your magic again, as Jim said, for us tonight. I'm also humbled to look around this room and see my television family here tonight. I could call Teresa Whitaker and Bob Jeswald up, and we could give you an impromptu newscast if you would like. Carlos Williams, our film processor, when I started back in 1976, and yes, we shot 16-millimeter film to produce our newscast back in those days. Thanks to all of my WRBL family for your support, everyone that's here tonight, and including our general manager, David Hart, who was not able to attend, but thank you to all of you for being here and supporting me tonight. My pastor, Paul Thomas, and his wife, Pam, they have joined us tonight along with so many of my precious dear friends from Evangel Temple, many of whom are in my Sunday school class, the Joint Air Sunday school class. God bless you for being here and just being here and loving on me tonight and giving me the hugs and the support. You know how much that I love and appreciate that. My dear sweet friend Sarah George is here tonight. Where are you, Sarah? There you are. What a blessing you and your family have been ever since we first moved to Columbus 40 years ago. Sarah's husband, Robert, came up with the idea that I should start a video production company, which he helped to facilitate back in 1988. That was a milestone in my professional career, and it can all be traced back to an idea that Robert sketched out on a napkin one night after a church service. Sarah, you honor me with your presence tonight, and I certainly remember Robert on this night in particular. The man responsible for my coming back into television after a 16-year absence is here tonight, all the way from Newnan, Georgia, Bob Page and his wife, Lori. Back in 1998, Bob was the news director at WRBL. He told me he wanted me to come back on the air, but he wanted me to move over a chair and anchor the news. And I thought he was nuts. But God had a plan, didn't he, Bob? Almost 19 years later, and I'm still on the anchor desk, but I'm still just one seat over from sports. I'm blessed to have my precious family here tonight to celebrate this special moment with me. All three of my children, India Jones, Scott, my son, and his wife, Libby, Andrea Giamona and her husband, David. All 7 of my 8 grandchildren are here. There's Michael, and there's Isaac. He's hiding back over there. Jacob, Luke, all on this table. And over here we've got Alyssa. And behind Alyssa is Levi. Micah is 3 years old, and if he were here tonight, none of us would hear or see a thing. He would be having a ball, and I wouldn't get in a word in edgewise. Also at my family tables, my dad, whom I mentioned earlier, my Aunt Mary and Uncle Rusty Smitherman, so precious to me. They're like my big brother and big sister. They have been a support for me all my life, and I'm thankful that they are here and joining in this special occasion tonight. We've shared a lot of special memories over the years. Also here tonight, my father-in-law, Roy Waller, the best-looking 90-year-old father-in-law in the building. Thank you for being here tonight, Roy. Which leads me to the most special lady in the house tonight who owns my heart. Roy's oldest daughter, my wife of 44 years, Judy. As the video says, we met when I was 14, and you have been my anchor ever since. The lyrics of a popular song are most appropriate in describing the life that you have led being married to a news and a sports anchor. The words go something like this. It must have been cold there in my shadow. You were content to let me shine. I was the one with all the glory, while you were the one with all the strength. That sums it up pretty well. Judy, you're the wind beneath my wings, darling. I love you. One of my favorite movies of all time, It's a Wonderful Life. In the closing scene, Clarence, the second-class angel, leaves a book for George Bailey, and inside the cover are the words, "No man is a failure who has friends." I feel like the luckiest man in the world tonight. God bless you.
Congratulations, Phil Scoggins, and congratulations to the Scoggins family as well. Our next inductee served on the Shaw High School coaching staff for 28 years, from 1978 to 2006. He coached the Shaw High School cross-country teams to 18 region championships and the boys team to 4 top 5 finishes in the state meet. Through coaching, running, and hiking, he raised funds for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, the American Diabetes Association, the ALS Association, and the ALS Center at Emory. He has completed 42 marathons, including the Boston Marathon 8 times, with a personal best time of 2 hours, 52 minutes, 14 seconds. He has thru-hiked the 2,186-mile Appalachian Trail from March 23 to September 2 in the year 2013. And he taught high school English for 37 years from 1975 to 2012. Would you please direct your attention to the screen?
You'd have to search cross-country to find someone as dedicated to the sport of running as Mike Stevens. His devotion to the sport started in 1980. He's kept a daily journal ever since March of that year. In it, he's chronicled over 59,000 miles run over 37 years. 1980 also happened to be Mike's inaugural year as the cross-country coach for Shaw High School, a position he held for a quarter century. And to say his teams dominated the competition would be an understatement. Stevens' squads captured 18 region championships, 10 boys titles, and 8 girls titles. Mike was honored as the Georgia High School Association Girls Region Coach of the Year 7 times, and the Boys Region Coach of the Year 10 times, including 8 years in a row from 1984 to 91. Mike's dedication to the sport was rewarded in 2001 when he received the Jerry Frazier Coach of the Year Award for Lifetime Achievement in Cross Country from the Atlanta Track Club. Mike didn't just encourage young people in the sport, he has been an avid participant himself. To date, he's completed 42 marathons. His time has been under 3 hours in 13 of those. His personal best came in the Huntsville Rocket City Marathon in 1984. He posted a time of 2 hours, 52 minutes, and 14 seconds. That's just over a 6.5-minute pace. Mike is no stranger to the granddaddy of them all, the Boston Marathon. He's finished that race 8 times. Mike's love of the outdoors has also lured him onto the hiking trails. He's notched over 3,300 miles on the Appalachian Trail. Almost 2,200 of those were recorded from March 23rd to September 2nd of 2013 in memory of his younger brother Don, who died of Lou Gehrig's disease. That hike raised over $4,000 in support of the ALS chapter in Georgia. Mike has not only made an impact on his runners, but also on thousands of students in the classroom. He taught English for 37 years, 31 of those in Muskogee County. He served as the English department chair at Shaw High School for 15 years. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame is proud to induct Mike Stevens.
Ladies and gentlemen, class of 2017 inductee, Mike Stevens. Take a look at the camera.
Well, as I stand here before you tonight, I'm following a professional speaker, and I don't have a horse story. So I'll do the best I can. First of all, I'd just like to thank Jim White and the committee for this great honor. I'm indeed, as the other recipients have said, I'm just very honored and humbled to be a part of this organization. As I look at the program here, I'm just kind of overwhelmed with all of those who've been inducted prior to tonight and just what an impact they've had on sports here in the Chattahoochee Valley. And I just feel, again, just so honored to be among them. I'd like to also recognize my family tonight. Here at the table right in front of me, I have my wife of 41 years, Linda, my son Sam and his girlfriend Amanda, my daughter Rachel, my nephew, my brother's son, Brent and his wife Lori, and my sister-in-law Lisa, and my 95-year young aunt, Gladys Pitts. I'm sorry that I'm not here with my parents tonight because they've passed on, as my brother has, so I'm the only one left from our family of 4 from my childhood days. But I just feel so blessed to have these family members with me and some others. I have my cousin Jane and her husband Gary Baer here, and my cousin Beth Stanton and her husband Luther, and Jane's daughter Carson, her boyfriend Nick. I don't think I've left anybody out, and so many friends. I'd like to congratulate the other members. I feel like I know everyone up here. I watched Sue Walton win so many 100-yard and 200-meter dashes when she was at Carver, beating the poor girls at Shaw mercilessly. I had the good fortune to serve on a coaching staff with Charles Flowers for 19 years, and I spent so many hours just in his office talking about various things from football to running to academics at Shaw High School and how important they were in our program there. Phil Scoggins had a chance to interview me a couple of times way back when he was doing sports. And I spent many a night in that press box at Garrett Harrison Stadium watching those Central Red Devils hand us a few defeats in the Shaw football program. I'm here tonight because of running. I started my coaching career actually in football and basketball. I had the good fortune to join the Shaw High School staff in 1978 after spending 3 years as a teacher at Carver High School from 75 to 78. But I was hired by Gordon Stallings to teach English and by Coach Bubba Ball to coach. And I started out as a 9th grade football coach and a 9th grade basketball coach, and I got promoted to JV basketball and varsity assistant, and I really enjoyed my years. And then something happened in my life that kind of changed it, and I'm here today because of really what happened on March 23rd, 1980. I went out for a run. I'd been running for many years before that, actually, going way back to when I was a young kid, and I'd run to stay in shape to play basketball at Baker High School in the late 60s, and I'd run to stay in shape to play tennis at 1 year at Columbus State. But I got home after that run on March 23rd, and I took a notebook and I wrote down my run. I wrote down how far I'd run, and that started a journal that the last entry went in this morning when I went out for a 4-mile run with my son Sam here and my good friend Kevin Gowan back here. And so I recorded every run for almost 37 years. And when I started that running and recording those runs, I got interested in racing. And I entered my first race back in May 3rd, 1980. I remember dates real well. I have them all written down. And I ran the 5-mile, that time, historic district run. And I was kind of hooked, as you could say. And from there, I wanted to start trying marathons. And I did my first one way too soon. And in December of that year, didn't do very well. But a little over a year later, I ran Callaway Gardens under 3 hours, and that was the first one in '82. But that first run gave me an opportunity to get into cross country. I asked Coach Ball that year if I could take over the cross country team, and then the next year I began coaching the track team as well. And I just had such an awesome opportunity to work with such fine young individuals, just great student athletes, men and women, over the years. But I guess if I started to talk really about my running life, it's in 4 phases. If I were going to title this speech tonight, which, by the way, I didn't write, if you can tell, I'm up here noteless. I just don't do well with notes, so bear with me. But anyway, if I could title a speech, which is unwritten, I'd call it From the Twilight Zone to the Dark Side. And I want to explain what that means. Back in the early 80s, I got involved with a group of runners, and we called ourselves the Twilight Zone Runners. And I was actually the youngest one in the group, I think, at the time. 79-year-old, I think it is, Fred Dyer is back here. And Fred was part of that Twilight Zone running group in the 80s. We met on Sunday mornings out at Cooper Creek and ran 20 miles most Sunday mornings before church. And, I get 20 miles in and get to Sunday school and church on time most weeks. And it was a great group of guys. Tommy Barnes, who called me the other day to congratulate me, he's now 77, lives down in Ellaville, and Tom Baker and Sandy Denham and Jerry McCrum and Harvey Anderson and most of these folks nobody even knows about except for Fred and Steve Hicks, who's back there, who was running with us some as well. But they were a great group of guys, and again, we came to be called the Zonies. And when we pounded out those miles, we all had one goal, and that one goal was to qualify for Boston, and we had to get under 3 hours to do it. So we were out there running some really hard runs. I made my cross-country kids sometimes come run with us. And I said that I became a better runner because I did the workouts the cross-country kids did, and they became better runners because I made them run the mileage I needed to run. And so it all worked out together. That was in the 80s, and things were great at Shaw High School and running in the 80s. We had some championship teams. We just had some really good quality individuals. When the Zonies started to break up, I was looking for someone new to train with, and I still wanted to run hard. I was still trying to qualify for Boston even though I was in my early 40s. And I was introduced to a gentleman who's become my best running buddy over the years, Kevin Gowan. And Kevin's back here and somewhere. I thought I was looking at him. But anyway, yeah, back there. I'm at the wrong table. I got about 3 tables back here. But Kevin became a running buddy when I needed one, and he was wanting to run 2-hour-plus marathons too. So we trained hard together. Then in 1994, I was invited by a friend of mine, Tommy Owens, who's a dentist up in Atlanta, to coach the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's team and training marathon teams in Columbus. And that opened a whole new avenue for me. I spent 5 years working with the Leukemia Society. And then later, Jimmy Brooks asked me if I would do the same thing for the American Diabetes Association, which I agreed to do and wanted to in honor of my son Sam here. He's been a type 1 diabetic since he was 7. And we raised a lot of money for those 2 associations, and at the same time we traveled and ran marathons all over the place. But it gave me a chance to meet new people. I met Roy Cronus, I met Joe Lewis, I met Alan Rothschild, that ran a marathon for leukemia or for diabetes, and I met my good friend Cecil Cheese back here. Cecil was inducted last year into this organization, and they raised the money, they trained hard with me, and it just kept me going into the late 90s as I approached my 50th birthday to have this group. That group kind of blossomed into the dark side. What the dark side is, because it still is today, is a group of runners who still go out and train hard, but now at 65, I can't quite keep up with them, but I'm doing my best. And I met a lot of more people like Reynold Counts back here, and Reggie Luther, and Carol Lee, and Randy, and Brenda Hitz, and John Teeples up here, and so many others that are part of our group called the Dark Side. Cecil and I are the elder statesmen in that group now. And so I went from being a young 30-something, 31 or 2-year-old with the Twilight Zone to now I'm an old 65-year-old guy in the dark side. So that's kind of where my running has gone. As far as Shaw Cross Country, it's tied in with all of it because not only did my teams come out and run some with the Twilight Zone, but they were also running with Kevin and me some when we were raising money for leukemia and training, and they kept running with me a little bit with the dark side. But the biggest connection with my cross-country teams and these other men and women I've run with is that I subjected them to every story imaginable about my cross-country teams. When you go out for 20-mile runs, I know Kevin and I have a little kind of a joke we used to use. I'd say when we started to run, I'd say, I got 1 5-mile story and 2 1-mile stories. What do you got? And that meant we would talk over the period of 2.5 hours or so about these stories. So I had so many stories that I shared with him. There was and I'm not going to get into a long story. If you like the 15 to 20-minute version, see me after. I'm going to give the 30-second or so version here. But the day that the policeman was waiting at the bottom of Warren Springs Road with a radar gun on my first runner, who happened to be Michael Brown, who was about 50 yards ahead of the pack. And when we got there, he said, Coach, your first guy's at 9.3 miles an hour. And then there was a day that the girls came up with a chant that was kind of like the military that they sang when they went out and did their long runs. There was a day Brad Dotson back here found $11 on a run, 2 5s and a 1. On the trails that are now Maple Ridge. anyway, the kids wanted to stop and look for money, so I said, let's do part of the workout, and then you can come and have a couple minutes to look. Nobody ever found another nickel where Brad found the $11. But every time we went by that spot on future runs, they kind of looked around. But even though no one found anything else, from then on, that became the money run. And so when I said, today we're going to do the money run, they knew exactly where to go. But when Shaw opened, we were out in the country. I remember when I was offered the job by Mr. Stallings, I was asked a question, why do you want to go way out there in the country to teach? I mean, we were in the middle of the woods, and it was just a haven for cross country. I could say, we're going to run the trails behind Connect Stadium. And we ran all the way over to what's now a Columbus Park Crossing, just in the woods. And then we could go where Maple Ridge and the golf course all and go in the woods up to Hancock. We had woods off of Blackman Road. And there were days when other teams had meets at Flat Rock when I would make my team run to Flat Rock before we had J.R. Allen, and about 4 miles each way, so we'd run 4 out and 4 back. And the other teams we would kind of intimidate them by saying we'd run over there and back while y'all are getting ready to run the race here. But it was just a great place to go. And then one other quick little anecdotal story. There was a day out at Cooper Creek. This is one of my favorites. I took a team out there. It was the fall of '88, and again, I've got it all written down. So today, Brad was over at my house, and I actually pulled out one of my logs to show him what he had run at the state meet and how we had trained the day after it. But we had a day out at Cooper Creek when it was one of those days in the fall when you wake up in the morning, it's warm, and all the kids would come to school with shorts and T-shirts, and about noon it started getting colder. But I had a workout plan for the team we were going to do regardless of the weather. And it was shortly before a region meet. We went out to Cooper Creek, and nobody complained. Everybody was happy to be there. And it started raining, and the temperature started dropping, and we were doing half-mile repeats on the trail out there. And I think it was about the second when Bobby Gardner back here almost slid into the lake because he went down in the mud. But we kept on going, and we got the workout in, got back to where we were meeting, and some of the kids drove away, and some of them were waiting for parents to pick them up. And they were shivering, and I really didn't know how cold it was. But I got in my car, and it was like 35 degrees. It was sleet expected that night. And we got it in, and 3 or 4 days later, Bobby won the region, and we were team region winners, and Bobby was the individual winner that day. I was just blessed over the years as a coach. Just a couple more things to say here. I was blessed, first of all, to have such wonderful people around me. In addition to being, supported by my family, I had a school family. And some of the teachers are here tonight. I see back there Sonia Boyd, Mona Griffin. And we just had such a great atmosphere. I had such great principals to work for. First Gordon Stallings, and then Eddie Obleton, and finally Jim Arnold, who's back here, and just such a great group of coaches to work with. It was just so fortunate. But the kids were awesome. They were always students first. And I'm blessed to have some of them here tonight. I've already mentioned Brad and Bobby. I got Chris McDuffie up here, and I have a couple of runners back here, Catherine Thurman Kennedy and her husband Joel. That was a cross-country romance, and they now have 3 little youngsters, and Joel works with Young Life down in Tallahassee, and they came up for this. I'm just so blessed by that. I had so many kids who've done such great things. I got an email yesterday from Colonel Alan Chambers. Alan is commander of the 779th Surgical Squadron stationed at Andrews Air Force Base, and he's been in 30-some-odd countries doing infectious disease work. I've got a former runner who's a professor at an Ivy League college. I've got runners who are teachers and physicians, and one who's an assistant DA here in Columbus. And it's so great to have them send you an email, pick up a phone and call you, and I get messages and phone calls so often, and I'm just so proud of all of them. They own companies, they do research, they're teachers, they're parents, and a lot of them, many of them, have children who have run high school cross country because of them, and many of them are still running today. And, you know, running is a sport that you can just continue doing your entire life. It's such a rewarding sport to get your kids involved in and just to do as a family. I'm blessed again to have my family here. My son Sam's run a marathon with me, or I ran one with him. He beat me at the end, yeah. I was old then, yeah. My daughter Rachel has run a marathon with me. And it's just been, again, so rewarding to have what I call this running life. I want to close today with thanking one more person, a person very dear to my heart. Again, I mentioned such great coaches at Shaw. You know, Coach ADs, we had Bubba Ball and David Taylor. And, of course, Charles Flowers and Debbie Ball is back here. I'm just so grateful for Debbie and all that she did. We shared a lot of athletes, Debbie and I did. And we had some softball players that ran cross country. And she was gracious to share. And we shared softball and with cross country and track at times. And basketball, we had some basketball players that ran. But it all worked out. But the final person I want to thank as we depart tonight is Coach James Augustus Bubba Ball, who's sitting right back there by Debbie. Coach Ball has been in my life for about as long as I have a memory. I was sharing with Jim up here earlier, when I was a little fellow of 6 or 7 years old, my dad told me Coach Ball stories. And he took me to Baker High School, and we sat up there. I don't know if anybody remembers the old gym that you sat in the balcony. And I watched Baker High play basketball in the mid-'50s and late 50s when Gordon Darrow was out there and Jimmy Lee, and we're going to know all these names, right? And I could call a lot of other ones. But I learned to love the man before I even knew him. And so I was at Baker as a freshman the last year Coach Ball was there, and before he went on to Gainesville. And when Shaw opened, and I'd already been hired to teach English, I went over to Hardaway one afternoon when Coach Ball was working with basketball, and I introduced myself and told him I was coming to Shaw and would like to coach. And he said, "Now, you already got a job teaching, right?" And I said, "That's right." And so he was talking to me, and I told him I wanted to have a chance to coach some basketball. And he didn't seem real interested until I told him I still knew how to run the shuffle. That's a patented offense that Coach Ball used way back a long time ago. And so he gave me an opportunity to coach. And I still remember the first day that I went with the football team back in the opening of Shaw. We didn't have a football field, so we had to go over to Columbus Junior High and several other places to practice. So we had to get on a bus every day and go practice. But I remember I was sitting up at the front of the bus by Coach Ball, and the team was all, you know, there in their uniforms for practice, and he said, "I need to give me your attention." And of course, they were all already attentive, and he said, "I want to introduce you to Coach Stevens." And that was the first time the word coach had ever been put before my name. And I remember just having a kind of a tingly feeling that I'm a coach, yeah. And not only am I a coach, I'm sitting next to, and I never could call him Bubba. I still today call him Coach Ball. I'm sitting next to Coach Ball, you know, as a coach at Shaw High School. Coach Ball has meant a lot to me, as has everyone that I've mentioned tonight. Just wonderful individuals. I just can't say how much this means to me to be included with this group I'm looking at in this program over here. And I just thank all of you who are here tonight, whether you're here for whichever of these athletes was honored tonight. I just thank you for being here and for allowing me this opportunity to speak. It's been a truly special evening. Thank you.
Congratulations, Mike Stevens and the Stevens family. Mike, you reminded me of a Bubba Ball story that I have from the mid-'50s. I was a bat boy at Golden Park for the Columbus Foxes. Bubba Ball was the trainer. The trainer gave the bat boys their directions and instructions on a game-by-game basis. We were fortunate as bat boys to travel to Jacksonville as the Columbus Foxes played the old Jacksonville Braves down there. Upon our arrival, I thought I'd be the visiting team bat boy for Columbus. But we found out that there was already employed both a home and a visiting bat boy. So what am I to do? Well, naturally I turned to Bubba Ball and said, what am I to do? He looked at me and he said, we're a little short on pitching arms tonight, so I want you to go down into the bullpen and I want you to start throwing. So I went down in the bullpen, and after 4.5, 5 innings of throwing, I felt like I was pretty loose, but I hadn't been given the call to come in and pitch. So I ran back up to the dugout, and remember now, I was only 13, 14 years old when I was going through this experience, but I ran back up to the dugout and I said, Mr. Ball, I'm loose. In fact, I'm getting pretty tired. He said, any minute now, you need to go back to the bullpen, keep throwing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I threw for 9 full innings that night, and I never got the call. It's been a great evening. We thank all of you for being here. I want to leave you with one thought or two to take home with you. We believe that there is at least one graphic measure by which we distinguish the great men and women of the Chattahoochee Valley. And we think that's by way of the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame. While it's physically located at the Columbus Civic Center, perhaps more importantly, it's located in our hearts. Within it are 107 individuals. Tonight, we added 5 more. We received them in large part because they were visionaries of perfection. They acted nobly, they acted with purpose of mind and purpose of body. Whether we take them individually or collectively, we submit to you that they have had a significant impact on our quality of life in Columbus, Georgia, and the Chattahoochee Valley. Therefore, before we adjourn, may I please ask you to rise and give one final round of applause to the class of 2017. Good night, everyone.